Hi, welcome to the first episode of the You Are Hired program. I'm Lisa Gray from Dragon Eagle Television. We're so glad to be the producer for this special program. As many of you may know, Dragon Eagle TV's mission is to serve the API community and also to connect the community. This You Are Hired program fits that mission very well. We will provide a platform for job seekers and companies to find good matches. We will also provide an experience for all to communicate their needs and qualification. First, let me thank the organizing community members who have worked hard in the last few months to design and develop this program. Let me introduce them. Grace Lee, the director for this program and the business connector.
Hi, everyone.
Dr. Jamie Su, moderator for panel discussions and coach for the participants.
Hello, everybody.
There are two other team members who are not on camera today. They are Shen Tao, coordinator and recruiter for job seekers. Rachel Wang, coordinator for talents recruiting. Today, we have the inaugural session to launch this program. We welcome your comments and suggestions to make this program a valuable addition to the AAPI community. Now let's start show. First, please welcome Grace Lee.
Hello again. I am Grace Lee. I am the CEO and president of Ashford Connects, a workforce solutions and development company. In today's programs, our panelists will interview a candidate for a junior software developer's position. The primary job responsibility will be to develop applications to meet software application requirements, development of technical specs, user documentation, and instructions for users. Look for continuous improvement in software and process, provide support and maintenance of database and application servers. The qualification for this position include strong technical and analytical skills, creative solutions with ability to solve complex issues, applying appropriate technology and resources, ability to participate in change activities and lead a team in a fast-paced environment if needed, involving all aspects of a project, from design, development, testing, implementation, and support transition. Just like a standard hiring process, we have screened few candidates for the position and recommend one candidate for the hiring manager to interview today. The candidates we selected today is Grant Yan. He is a junior at University of Michigan School of Information with emphasis in human-computer interaction. So welcome, Grant. Can you introduce yourself to our panel today and share them with your backgrounds?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here. My name is Grant. I'm currently a junior at the University of Michigan School of Information. I used to study at the University of Washington, pursuing a computer science and a software development path. At UMich, I dive deeper into the HCI world, the human-computer interaction world, and my interest is in data visualization and UX aspect of the software development. I like innovations. I like challenges. I like the process of slowly figure complex things out. I participated a lot of hackathons and design challenges from school and from outside of schools. I serve as a front-end developer in the Digital Humanities project to build experimental tools to help scholars interact with the Asian script. In the past summer, I interned abroad at Baidu to maintain their BI report platform and a data warehouse platform. Starting on January this year, I served as a student software engineer in the co-op program for CAT Digital to improve their prognostic alert system for machines to reduce like the machine failures. I'm looking for a software development position. I'm hoping to figure out if I'm a good fit for your company.
Thank you, Grant. Now I'm going to turn over the program to our panelists, the moderators, Dr. Jamie Shi.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jamie Su. I'm a retiree from General Motors and also a retiree from Lawrence Tech University. It's a great pleasure to be here. Let me just say briefly, let you know that what's the format we're going to have. We're going to first ask our distinguished panelists to begin to ask some questions to the candidate, the Grant, so we can evaluate him better. We can also understand him better. After the evaluations, we are going to excuse Grant or the candidates and then have some discussion to discuss what we saw, what we heard, and make some comments. We invite candidates to come back and then we'll let him know our decisions and our comments. So that's the process we're going to go through. And along the way, we hope all the audience will get a chance to watch this, to listen to us, and also learn how to present yourself better and listen to the expert panelists' comments, so we all learn together. So that's the format of the program. Before we get to the second stage of asking the candidates some questions to know him better, let me just introduce the three distinguished experts, panelists to you. First, we have Andy Frey, who is a CIO, Chief Information Officer of One Magnify company. He was the recipient of the 2020 Chief Information Officer Hall of Fame inductee at the CIO magazine. He's also was the 2020 CIO 100 award winner of the magazine. So he's done a lot of things, expert in this area. Okay. Second panelist is Ned Kalunovic. He is the Director of Development for the company called DaySmart Software. He's the Executive Director, Product Development and Engineering, and Deluxe Company, Deluxe Corporations. Okay. The last panelist is David Chang. David is an old friend of mine. He's currently the Senior Manager, Program Management of Altimetric. Before that, he was Senior Vice President and Director for the Chemical Bank for the, our Comerica, I'm sorry. Chemical Bank is somewhere in between. Comerica Bank, so, okay. So with these three excellent panelists, we're going to start some questions. And I will moderate and encourage you to ask Grant some questions, and maybe occasionally will chime in. But primarily, let the three of you ask him some questions to know him better, okay? Andy, you'd like to go first?
Certainly. Thank you, Jamie. Hello. I'm thankful to be here. My name is Andy Frey. I'm the CIO of One Magnify. Grant, thank you for putting yourself out there like you are. That's very much appreciated. First question is, what made you move from Washington to Michigan?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess asked a lot. Both of them are like great schools. In Washington, I was a computer science students, and I sometimes found like the courses getting like way too technicals, whereas my interest is really, figure out how does business cooperate with tech? How does human cooperate with tech? I'm competent with coding, but my passion is really like how people understand or interpret like the application technology that we're using. And the UMich is very famous for their human computer interaction programs at school information. And then that's, I just made a transition and just made a transition.
Well, welcome to Michigan, of course. It sounds like you sort of want to be between a developer and a business analyst or a product owner. That's what we call them in our agile development. Which one of those positions would interest you more, or would you just want to still be a developer?
I guess my main focus is still pursuing a computer science and like software development path. The reason I mentioned that I'm super interested about like how people like UX or the other part of it or database, that is, I really want to go beyond someone who could code. I believe like, having a background in other disciplinaries will really make me stand out in a workspace. So I know how backend works. I know how database works. I know how design works. So that makes me a good person to work with among those colleagues because I understand their language. I understand what they're concerned about. So my future career is going towards software development, but with, try to more interdiscipline, like more disciplinary, like these environmental things in my position.
Well, thank you. I'll just ask one more question and then I don't want to take too much
Well,
time.
we can come back to you later, Andy. But
Okay,
let's
Thank you.
let's see if
Yep.
I know that Ned and David
Sorry.
are antsy now to get in there now to ask some tough questions, right? Yeah, Ned.
Hi, Grant. Really nice to meet you today. And you're doing really well so far. This, I'm sure, is really to make anybody nervous being on camera, being interviewed. So kudos to you for being here. Tell me a little bit about your experience at U of M. What's it been like so far?
Yeah, it's been good. Still getting used to the weather, but I really like U of M. Just being like more opportunities around here because I just have way more opportunities here. I like how the office, how like the classes set up, how my curriculum is set up. It's been great so far.
I know you sort of had more of a passion. We talk about getting into software development and talking a lot about sort of UX and the passion of having that extra set of skills. And you kind of listed on your resume having, I couldn't tell if it was work or projects, but doing a lot of interviews. Can you tell me a little bit about that whole process? It's a little bit new to me. So how do you prep for an interview? How do you know what questions to ask? What's a successful outcome of an interview?
Yeah, so the background of it is a program called Design Clinic from School Information. It's like a lot of NGOs that go to our schools and then ask for consulting or like engineering projects or UX projects. So this is like one of them is really competitive to get in, and I'm fortunate enough to get in. I'm the only undergrads in our team. I'm working with a couple of doctors and a couple graduate students in UX project to provide event planning page for a community in Detroit. I'm a person that learns by doing. I ask them a lot of questions on how to do this stuff, do that stuff. So speaking with the user interview specifically, so we have the Figma of the prototype of like page we want to design to in order to evaluate the improvements. So we conduct user interviews and better understand their needs and better understand what we need to improve. So what I did is I talked to our advisors and our teammates to draft general guides on how to list of questions to interview them, but also make sure they have chances to express their opinions, to try not to be so guided. And then we conduct about 5 different user interviews with our stakeholders, with our main stakeholders. And then we got some really great insights from them, and we use that to measure our write them into a report and then put them into our deliverables.
Okay, questions from David?
Yes, good afternoon, Grant. Nice to meet you and happy to be here. Perhaps you're a fan of Marvel Comics or DC Comics, right? Superheroes like X-Men or the Avengers. I'm just kind of curious, if you're to reflect on your strengths and maybe your own superpowers, maybe pick 1 or 2 that you feel are unique, that you offer that perhaps no one else does. I'd be curious to hear that.
Naruto's my favorite. So, but I actually want to be Lee in Naruto, just to give it more backgrounds. So in the comic book, everyone has superpowers, right? Like, get some way or another, they get some superpowers, but whereas this character he does not. So he's everything, he achieved something great through his dedications and hard work, step by step, like wake up every day early, go to bed like late, and then everything he deserved, like the achievements at the end. So I really admired him and like look up to him to be like him. That I might not be the smartest person. I might not come up with the greatest idea of the century, right? But I want to live my day well. Like I want to spend my time. I treasure my time every single day. I want to treasure the moment. I want to seize the moment. And then because I believe little steps I do will turn something great in the future.
Gotcha. I have to look Lee up now that you mentioned Naruto.
I'm curious, Grant. You are the junior member of your team, right? How does that feel? Is it like advantage or disadvantage?
So in different teams, my position is kind of different. In a lot of teams, I'm more like a skill-wise, well, age-wise, not that senior, but like skill-wise, I could serve as a tech lead position. But in some cases, you're right that I serve as a more like junior, like intro level, like learner. I really, force myself to be really humble on things because they know something that I don't, and I want to be humble to learning about it. I crave those kind of knowledge from them. I rephrase that. I'm craving for more knowledge from different perspectives. For instance, I'm working with UX expertise, and I want to be like humble and just ask them questions about like, hey, tell me about something about UX. And if they're interested, I could share some of my insights from software development standpoints. And I had a lot of this kind of discussions with them, and I gained so much from them because typically, like, we have no idea what UX designers thinking about, and they have no idea how computer works, how program works. I really want to create this bridge between, myself or the others. Also, in CS field, computer science field, with other field, for instance, business, designs, and even histories or biology. I hope that's a good answer.
10 years from now, how do you see yourself?
That's a good question. So I think 10 years from now, I want to keep consistent with my previous answer that I want to do one step at a time. I have no idea what my 10 years later will look like, but I really want to be that person that says like, okay, I don't waste my time in the past 10 years. Regardless where I am, I might be in somewhere else, I might not even alive, but I think by 10 years later, I want to be the person or the position that I'm really confident to say that, like, I don't waste my time. This year has been the perfect 10 years.
Questions from the panelists?
I do have one for you, Grant. What type of company are you looking for?
So in a high level, there's a couple points that I really look into. First is it creates a positive environment where contributions are appreciated. And the second is it doesn't afraid, it has the courage to try new things, try new technologies, and try new things and test if it works. It's fine if it doesn't, but I want the company, the leadership group has the courage to do so. Also, I'm hoping for a lot of growth potentials. I love to work at companies that is innovative and always looking for new opportunities to expand. And I would really appreciate, but to be like more micro level, I will really appreciate opportunities or systems to learn from peers or seniors, for instance, through mentorship or through like just kind of partners. And those are kind of my criteria.
Ned or David?
Actually, I did have another question, Grant. In the IT and computer science field, obviously you're dealing with pressure and deadlines. Could you maybe briefly describe, a stressful situation and how you overcame that?
So I would like to bring up my experience with University of Michigan Life Science Institute. And this is like a research institute at University of Michigan. As a new intern in the team, when I was new in the team, and there was a lot of miscommunications going on in the team, and we have issues on working on the same thing. and we have disagreements on the prioritizations of the features. And by the time I was getting on team, the progress is kind of like postponed because everyone is trying to like figure out what others doing and what do we do as a whole team. And our supervisors, who is a biology scientist and has little knowledge on developing like in tech and just developing applications. So we come up with an issue or stress that how do we transform the project from a flow of early stage project that could, integrate it to a system that we could iterate sustainably and efficiently. Nobody knows how to figure it out. And being a new people in the team, I took the lead and developed some development guidelines. To be more specific, I was in charge of the front end work, which is written in React.js. So the guideline is something like use class components and use function components instead of like class components. But also I integrated the functionalities to improve our workflow. For instance, GitHub issues, GitHub branches. I created a very crystal clear milestones and issues on GitHub to have better understanding of our development standard and avoid doing the same thing, because like those issues you could assign it to somebody else, and then having a workshop with them to set up okay, how do you post your commit on this issue, how do you attach it to it? So everything is things like standardized, well documented, and currently we're working on the repo with clear instructions on the use of branches, on development versus production environments. And then we are hoping to get more funds from other companies to promote this, this project. And from last year to this year, with time spent of 4 months, the number of members in our team almost doubled from 4 to about 8 right now. And the process has been great.
Very good. Ned, you have something?
So generally, I guess as you're going into sort of in this development space, you're probably most likely to get some interview question on a technical question, maybe some of the technology that you listed, or simple design questions. So I guess I'll try to make a simple one here and say, if you were to imagine a simple sort of login page with a text box, and where a user enters in their user ID and password and clicks a button and submits it, and we validate the credentials in our database and send them on to the next page that says hello. Can you talk about a little bit of if you were to set that up in React, how would you set that up? How would you how do you collect the user ID and password? And maybe a little bit of database where you'd store it, how would you get it, but something that demonstrates that you've played around a little bit with this and some technical detail.
I guess my first approach is not to code out a whole thing, because I will ask to more details on the requirements. For instance, do you want the third parties platforms to do the logins for you? So you don't reinvent the wheels in the short terms. So if it comes to really a stage that we really need to personalize our login page from a front end perspective, React perspective, on top of the forms so everything should be in the forms and then with the submit buttons. But also there's a couple ways of, do identity. There are a couple ways that do the security validations on our inputs, because we assume that people is going to do something bad to a website, and we never trust everything from the users. So there's other frameworks that do such kind of validations. For that includes like the SQL, testing if it's a SQL queries, or testing if it's XML queries that will mess up your backend systems. So once we submit that form into your backend, we do the data processing, and we look up identities in the database or regards to database. There's a project I'm currently working on that is written in Python Django. So they already have an interface for us in the backend. So I guess it really depends on your tech stack. For Django, at least, they already have this layer written for you. And for Node.js or Flask, you have to do it on your own, and it is quite tedious. So for the yeah, it is. But also to do that, do the user management system, you want to have a well-defined schema of your database beforehand. So to make sure it's like scalable and avoid redundant work. I hope that's a really brief overview of the thing. Super brief, but yeah, feel free to ask like more details if you're interested.
In your resume, you listed one of your projects, you use SQLite. Can you tell me, why you used it and what are some of the benefits of it?
So in contract, SQLite is a relational database that provides like really fast like access and fast build, really convenient to use. So the main reason I'm trying to use this is SQLite is widely used in the university classrooms. So if a certain class want to cover something about database, their first options is go to SQLite. So by all means, all of my users are pretty much, or all the developers we hire in our teams they have like at least some knowledge about SQLite. So in terms of choosing a test stack, SQLite, it reduces the time of onboarding. And if you're looking from the requirements from the projects, it does not requires like crazy intensive like security levels. So crazy SQLite is just light platform. It's just light, it's quick and easy to use and easy for user to manipulate. If you want a server, it's just delete the files. The flexibility is really the main driving force of my decisions.
Wow. You guys are talking about something I have no idea what you're talking about. Could you tell me something which is non-technical about yourself? Anything you want to tell me? Non-technical, no jargons at all. Just tell me who Grant is.
Yeah. I'm extremely introverted. I like to talk to different peoples. And I do it in a way that people don't get annoyed at me. On top of that, I play lacrosse in a university level. I play collegiate lacrosse at University of Michigan. Sorry, I play collegiate lacrosse at University of Washington. And then when I transferred to Michigan, I play club lacrosse here. On top of that, I play lacrosse for the Chinese national teams. And I will be representing Team China in the upcoming World Cup in Ireland in this summer.
Wow.
What position do you play?
I play midfield. The same with my tech stack. I try to be really versatile on my skills. I could play offensive. I play offense, defense. I could play attack. I play midfield. Yeah, so this is, people don't realize that I am a student athlete. So this is a little separate things about me, yeah.
How do you manage all the time? That takes a lot of time to be so good at lacrosse and other sports and other games.
I'm still learning lacrosse, so I wouldn't call myself good. I'm still learning, still learning from my peers. So, so I guess I am really big person on deadlines. So everything I do, I set up like deadlines for myself. I wrote up at the beginning of the week, I wrote the like abstract of the task I want to do for each week. And for every day, I pretty much label everything I do. And then I live on the calendar application. So if it doesn't exist on my calendar, I'm probably not going to be attending that event. Wow. So with those tools and the mindset on, the deadlines, it really helps me manage my time. So I could, I have my separate time, like own time on coding. I have my social times. I have time for practice and do other stuff.
That's great. Any other questions from the panelists before we excuse Grant?
I mean, I do have one more question. You play lacrosse, and I was going to ask this question anyway, Grant. Why would you be a good teammate to my other IT teammates?
That's a good question. So is your question like, why am I a good lacrosse teammate or why am I good like IT teammates?
Why would you make a good teammate in our company? Because nobody does anything alone, right? In IT, you'd always do it on a team. Why would you be a good teammate?
Yeah, absolutely. So due to my interdisciplinary skill sets, I know a lot of UX, I know about business, I know something computer science. I could provide more insights from different perspectives. But at the same time, I understand like what like the other's perspective better. But also I learned quick. In my Baidu internship, I show up and they tell me that they're using completely different tech stack, and I've learned from the beginning. It takes like 3 weeks, but it was like quick. I'm curious about like why. I'm curious about like how is it done and why is it done this way. And I'm extremely an outcome-oriented person. I'm super result-oriented. I want to be able to execute the plans within the time constraints, within the usability constraints, within the integrity constraints. So being a creative learner, being a creative people, being a quick learner, being an outcome-oriented person, I think I will be a really good teammate for colleagues in a company.
Anything from Ned or Dave?
I've got one more.
Okay.
So,
Okay, sure. Ned,
so
go.
Grant, if you're working on one of my teams and the team or the scrum master had given you some work and you had kind of planned out what you were going to do, over the next couple of days or iteration, and I happened to walk along and told you to do something completely different, what would you do?
Yeah, first I will really ask myself and ask my managers, which is like the prioritization of those two conflicted tasks. So if there's a couple of situations, for instance, if I could arrange the task to the next my Scrum phase, that would be great. If not, I will try to, and I heard that like my managers prioritize this task than my original plan, then I would do the prioritized ones, but also see if there's rooms for the next phase that I could squeeze, the time that I left out from this phase. But also I will ask my other colleagues, say like, if I have to be the one that do this task, then can someone else take over my projects, and to reduce, like to have like minimum damage on the project time span overall.
Okay, if there are no further questions from the panelists, I'd like to excuse Grant for a few minutes. We can have some private discussions about you, of course. Okay, and then we'll call you back.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Sounds good. I'll see you guys later.
Okay, that certainly was an interesting interview, and Grant was an interesting person. I'd like to hear the three of you, your comments, your impressions, whoever want to get started. Okay, we have get a chance to listen to Grant and also to ask him some questions, some penetrating questions. Now let's have some discussion. What's your impression? What do you think is his strength? What will be your concern about him as a candidate? Let's get started.
I certainly would have no reservations about working with Grant. I thought the question that he answered the best was the technical logging question, where he referred to a third-party service as opposed to building it himself. I thought, for a young person, that was a very mature answer.
From my perspective, a number of things that really impressed me about Grant. One was his approach to trying to use technology to solve business problems, right? And his interest in things like UI, UX, the user experience, and understanding the multidisciplinary aspect around technology. And so that is another example in my mind for a young person to have that kind of maybe more sophisticated view around how technology can solve business problems, I think was a very strong.
Yeah, in general, I thought he did really well. Could definitely see myself working with someone like him. So he was very personable, smiled a lot. I think when people get really nervous, they forget to do that and try to be more like a robot. So he came off as a real person, a great personality. I think he did had a couple, he had a couple things that he kind of missed on. So for me, one, when he was talking about, he liked to learn, which was great, but he kind of used, in a sentence, in saying he was very humble, he said he kind of forces himself to be humble. And so that kind of, that phrasing of forcing yourself to be humble really makes you, well, are you humble, or are you just pretending, forcing yourself?
Okay.
It wasn't a big thing. I'm just bringing it up here as we're offering suggestions for people to kind of pick up on and be careful of the language that you use.
Yeah.
And then I think the only other thing he struggled with was he started talking about some OKRs, and then just kind of got confused in the terminology. But in general, he did really well. He would be a top candidate.
Yeah, there's one item where I wish Grant would have answered differently, and that was when I asked him about why would he be a good teammate on our team. I was really just looking for that for him to respond that because I would be kind and empathetic to my other teammates and help them. His answer was okay, but I was also looking for that piece of it as well.
David?
Maybe one other thing, that I thought could have been a better answer is around his response to stress. I think it's aligned with other things that he demonstrated, right? Very driven, outcome focused, milestone. I think he answered the question that way. But I was just curious to see how he would operate when things really didn't go well. And, would there be other characteristics around, asking for help, for example, versus trying to drive through things individually? I think as a student, many times you're measured on individual contribution versus, hey, in a team environment, like Andy said, right? Is he willing to put maybe his own feeling of his abilities to the side, see how he can leverage the strength of the team?
Ned, you really drilled him on the technical aspect. What do you think of that portion of it? Because I don't know how to judge his answer.
No, he did well. So definitely, what I'm looking for is, I don't have, it's been quite a while since I've touched any of that. So I'm just looking for, if you've listed something on your resume, be prepared that you may get asked about it, and you've got to have a reasonable answer. His answers on SQLite were spot on. I can't remember whatever else we asked in there, but I thought he did a reasonable job of it and demonstrated that he's kind of done this before, and he's at a junior level, so we're a little bit more forgiving too.
Now, if you were to hire him today, what reservation you might have?
I don't know. I think in generally when I work would be, I'm usually out sourcing candidates or pulling candidates in from recruiters. And so my interaction is very similar to this, coming in at a higher level, doing a quick spot and saying, yeah, I think we're good enough to move to the next level. So after that, it would be more of a, okay, now the team gets to sit down with you, and the team is gonna spend a little bit of time asking you questions and see how they feel about interacting with you. But
so you would say definitely he passed the first hurdle. Okay.
Yeah, he would have passed for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And he passed with me too. I would love to have him interview at on my team as well.
Yep.
Okay.
I would say the same thing. I think he is a very strong candidate. I would love to have someone like that on the team. Perhaps a reservation I might have is more on my side, saying, what do we need to do to make sure he feels challenged, engaged, that he has the right support? Otherwise, he may feel, okay, I'm kind of bored, I'm going to move on.
Thank you so much. So this looks like a good candidate from all of us, right? We may want to have further interviews and have some team members to interview him, to know him better, to give a different type of perspective. Right? Okay, that's good. That's great. Any other comments from Grace or Lisa? Anything? You all heard the same thing, right? As a silent observer.
If I may make a comment, not point out the expression he used. I was little bit, I don't know. It's not just surprised. He used the words. He said, "I was forced to be humble." It's because the language or culture thing is sometimes it translated into Chinese. I'm just from non-native American perspective. Maybe we should ask him because that's very important. Because what a kind of a right expression, maybe he thinks differently.
Yeah,
I honestly looked past it. I'm sorry, Grace.
Yeah.
I looked past it because I could tell he was humble when he was talking, so it didn't really register with me.
Yeah, but if when you had interview to Americans, yes, and people heard, if they hear, I'm forced to be humble. Yes, that's the reason we want to help the candidates from API community, because lots of them they're not born in this country, they're not grew up in this culture. Myself, I consider I'm okay. I'm in a Western family, but still So I think if we can put that, I think it's an important point to be pointed out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the whole purpose of, we have these programs helping, the AAPI communities. There was another candidate we interviewed. He came in, he was just straight telling us he's an introvert, he's not a leader, and we would just flow during the interview. That's other things you try to avoid during the interview process, and we kind of want to share with the audience, on the presentations.
Anyone really impressed by his introduction before we ask questions?
Thought he did well. I was almost suspicious of you prepped him really well for this to come here, because he did seem like he's put some thought into it, and he's more polished than a lot of the juniors that I would see coming in for an interview.
Okay.
I agree with Ned. Yes.
I was the other way around. I thought he didn't hit the key points of himself well. He talked very nicely, but I kind of missed the emphasis he tried to make to convey to us who he is and why he's good. Maybe that's also the cultural things. He's not. I don't feel he sold himself. He's selling himself hard.
Yeah, he should have mentioned that he played lacrosse as part of his introduction. That's important to know, actually. That he's on a team. He's a team player. That's important.
I for that point, I totally agree. I think that's a very important aspect. We need to help API community members, because we grew up in Asian family. We were taught to be, I don't know, use humble or something. Even you're good, you really should not say I am good. You have to say no, I'm okay. I'm not good.
Yeah, and then the not just the school, not just the work. It's other extra curricular activities. It's important for the employer too. So he should have mentioned that.
Okay.
In these introductions.
So I would recommend, especially since he's junior and he's got room on his resume, I would put it there too, because it is something that I would pick up on too. Okay, he's in a team sport. He knows what it's like to, even though he doesn't have work experience.
Yeah.
He's been around the team.
So when we call him in, what should we say to him? You are hired?
I mean, can we interview him? I'd be happy to interview him on my team. I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Is he available?
Yeah, you like to? Okay.
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, I think he would be a very attractive candidate for any organization. He's demonstrated a lot of good energy, creativity, and I think motivation. So I think strong formulas for a candidate coming in.
Okay.
I think for me, it probably would be an ideal spot for him. Well, we're a remote company right now, but I do have a main office in Ann Arbor, which is pretty close to him, especially given that he's a junior, and he'd be able to come into the office, once in a while. So there may be some potential there. I just hired recently three juniors. So I've got to check to see, what does our outlook look like for the year ahead in terms of bringing more juniors or interns on. So I don't have the position to give, but he would definitely be somebody to consider.
So the three of you are willing to give him a business card, say, call me. I'd like to know you better.
Yes, essentially, yes.
Right?
Yes, I'd love to bring Grant in to talk to our team to see if they're, to see how he could fit on our team.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
To the next round.
He's on.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, hi, Grant.
Okay, we get a chance to talk and to review what you told us and also how you answer those questions. Okay. Let me tell you the bottom line and then come back with something. The bottom line is that everybody think you are really have very high potential. And all three of them are willing to say, hey, we like to know him better. We like to invite him maybe back to our office to meet our team. Okay. So congratulations, you're doing very well that way. Okay. Now they did point out a few points they like to clarify from you. Okay. One is that you mentioned about your team players, you emphasize, you work with the teams, but one word you use, you say, well, I was forced to be humble. What do you mean by that? You're forced to be humble.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any
I didn't
particular
mean-
meaning of that
Yeah.
or reason for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to like someone force me to be humble, but it's just I keep remind myself like I need to ask like people humble ways is how I deal with people, how I talk to different peoples. It's not like nobody forced me. It's not like if I don't be
Okay.
humble, like and like nobody work with me, but it's just like my constraints for myself, or like I always want to like keep myself humble.
Okay.
With people.
Okay. Okay. So you keep reminding yourself that to be humble. The other thing, personally, I have a little bit of concern is that when I ask you about the 10 years, what do you see yourself in 10 years? It's almost like that's you never thought about it.
Yeah.
You thought about now and what do you want to do the next 2 years, next 1 years, but now next 10 years.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a great question. So you like further explain that, like I don't thought about which position I would be doing, which well, I would be like a senior developers then, or would I be working in product or shifting to designs or doing startups? I have not thought about that part yet because I don't know. I just don't know. Because I
Okay.
want to be like super open-minded
Okay.
about stuff and just, live every single day, I guess.
Sometimes, people will be touched by the strong dream or passion of a youth. So if you need to convey that you do have some dream, have some passion, you want to do something in the long run, not just to survive the current. Okay? So just a cautionary word. The other one is talk about when you introduce yourself in the beginning. You did very well. You talk about it. You seem to know what you want to talk about. But sometimes we may miss your key points. So you may want to think about your self-introduction. What are the 3 or 4 key points you want to make and hit it hard? For example, if you want to emphasize your team player, but you didn't say that lacrosse also taught you a lot about it to be a team player. So you can emphasize the key point you have and then use a few examples to illustrate that. So we can remember that. Otherwise, if for people like us, if we didn't get a chance to grill you for 1 hour, we may not remember. If just based on your presentation, the impression is not that not high. So think about it a little bit, okay? But overall, though, we are very impressed. Your technical capabilities, the way you can handle questions, the way you can deal with your different challenges, we're very impressed. That's why all of us said, yeah, we like to continue to have him, to interview him, to know him better, and look for opportunities for him. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the questions. And this is such a great opportunity for me. Yeah, it's such a great opportunities for me. I've never, getting asked by questions like what Marvel characters to represent you. Yeah, that was definitely great advice.
Okay.
I'll definitely take into account.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, and thanks the panelists. I'm turning over the program back to Lisa. Lisa, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Jamie. We hope you all have enjoyed this job matching, learning, and networking program. Thanks to our panelists for taking the time to be with us today. Best of luck to the recruiters, candidates, job seekers, and all who are participating in this unique program. We would love to get your feedback and to hear your suggestions. Before you go, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in our next episode.